It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Field! Number 70!
We're talking about practice.
Hello, you play to win the game.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
3, 2, 1, happy 2000!
No time on the clock, and the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Jordan open. Chicago with the lead.
Worldwide Sports Radio Network presents Below the Mic.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Below the Mic, and I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can call us at 631-965-4990. Remember, you can go to our website at worldwidesportsradio.com. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't, you haven't, or you want to download our app, all you have to do is go to the iOS store. You go to WWSRN, and if you go to Droid or Android, all you got to do is search us at Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Speedy Petey, what's going on, my friends?
I was busy yesterday trying to deal with the technical problems we had on Tuesday, but
it's with the rain and the bad weather out there throughout the country. Obviously, we've had problems and technical difficulties throughout the social media market, so I want to apologize to all the fans. I do want to give a shout-out to my friend Big Joe. His mother passed away today. I met his mother a couple of times. She was a very nice woman. He had to go to the hospital and decide what he had to do with her today, and I just want to give a shout-out to his mom, his family. My heart goes out to him and his family.
Absolutely. So sorry for your loss, Joe, if you are listening and being one of your best friends.
Why wouldn't he be listening?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but sorry for your loss nonetheless, and sorry for your loss being one of your best friends.
It's one of my good friends, and I want to give a shout out to Joe. His mother meant a lot to him. Obviously, everybody's mom means a lot to them, and his grandmother passed away last year, so. He's been going through a lot of stuff, so I want to be here for him, and a shout out to him and his family, and I don't know what more to say about it. It's been a hard day for me today, and I'm sure for him and his family. So we have a great show lined up for you today. We will be talking to Ithaca Football Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. And at 7:15, we'll be talking to Oregon softball player superstar Shaye Bowden. So stay tuned for that. But as you guys know, we do this every single Thursday. Speedy. This is entertainment and sports. He reportedly planning to target Giannis Victor Oladipo in 2021 free agency. Well, you know Pat Riley. You know Pat Riley likes to go in there and put his hand in the grab bag and try to pull out great superstars. He had Dwayne Wade, he had LeBron James, he had Chris Bosh over the years, and they won 2 titles with all the runs that they had with the Heat. So I wouldn't be so surprised if Giannis and Oladipo will be on their high-priced free agency market paperwork. Titans, Derrick Henry discussing deal. Well, the Titans haven't made a deal with Derrick Henry. This is a guy who is an explosive running back. Last year, he was, to me, the most explosive besides Christian McCaffrey. This guy deserves all the money in the world. He took the Titans to the AFC title game. Pay and show him the money. NFL reportedly pledging $250 million over 10 years to support black communities. This isn't a surprise. The Players Union and the NFL Union are going to help out moving forward in this crisis. Massachusetts, reportedly Joe Kennedy calls for the Patriots to sign Colin Kaepernick. Why? I repeat, why would the Patriots spend money and give Colin Kaepernick an opportunity to absolutely ruin their locker room, especially everything that's going on with George Floyd?
You're talking about the team that never goes for popular moves either.
It doesn't make any sense.
You really expect them to be the ones, if anyone were to sign Kaepernick, for it to be them?
It doesn't make any sense. Colin Cowherd, Baker Mayfield will be fired if the Browns don't make the postseason. Quite possibly could happen. Here's the thing. Baker Mayfield, his first season, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, had a sensational rookie year, one of the best rookie years we've seen a quarterback have as a rookie. His second, sophomore, he threw over 30 interceptions. He was not good. He had explosive players, great offensive line, even great defensive players, and still couldn't produce what he produced his first season. I do believe that if Baker Mayfield doesn't have a postseason, he will be fired from the Cleveland Browns.
I agree, especially with a new coach, too. He might want to go find his own quarterback. It might be hard, depending on how good they are, to find in this draft, but if they are really bad, don't be surprised.
Vikings have all leverage against Dalvin Cook's holdout. Dalvin Cook wants to be the highest paid running back in the NFL and quite possibly should get that money. 24-year-old who is explosive, can't stay healthy. Right. Ezekiel Elliott got the money. Gurley got the money. All the top running backs get the money, especially in their contract year. It is not his contract year. He has 2 more years left on his contract. Will Dalvin Cook get that contract? I beg to differ. I do not see it happen. No. I could see the Vikings trading him.
I could see it, too. The Vikings have always been a team that lets guys go pretty early, too, and they're good player development, so you could trust it.
Packers GM Brian Gutekunst. Gutekunst. I can't pronounce his name.
You're about halfway.
Implores Jordan Love to challenge Aaron Rodgers for the starting quarterback job. Here's the problem. I do not think he's going to win the job this year from Aaron Rodgers. I do believe after this year, Aaron Rodgers will be traded and dealted. But Jordan Love, moving up the way they did in the first round, I could see Jordan Love taking over next year. I think they want to move on from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, one of the highest paid players in the NFL. He's also 36, 37 years old after the end of this year. He wants, and he's probably going to declare more money from a team like the Green Bay Packers, especially if he gets him far in the playoffs with this team. I do believe Aaron Rodgers will be on his way out.
I absolutely agree, and I think if he would be on his way out, it'd probably be either in the offseason or next year's trade deadline if they do struggle.
NBA news. NBA could allow teams to replace players who opt out of playing. Now, I don't understand this. I know there's a story going on with the NBA, Carmelo Anthony, which we will get into, that he does not want to play because of the COVID-19 virus. If that is true, who are you going to add to this team? Are you going to bring G League players? Are you going to bring college players that decide not to go
declare for the draft?
Yeah, declare to the draft. I don't know what the NBA is talking about with this. Maybe they're bringing foreign players. This is a very interesting story. Moving forward, I'm very interested to see how the NBA does deal with this.
What are the limitations to that? Because there's so many they could pick from.
Blazers, Damian Lillard reveals he once thought he was getting traded to the New York Knicks. I am not surprised about that. I do believe that Damian Lillard still could be dealt. If not this year, next year. He's getting paid a lot of money, and he's at the highest he'll ever be. He averaged almost 28 points last year. This is one of the most explosive and underrated point guards in the NBA. I do believe he might be dealt. He interested in Bradley Beal. I'm not surprised. There are a lot of teams interested in Bradley Beal. The Nets, the Knicks, all the teams that are bad, including the Heat. And the Heat is not a bad team. They're one of the most underrated teams this year, especially they would be a 4th or 5th seed going into the playoffs.
Yeah, they were 5, yeah.
So I do see Bradley Beal getting traded. Maybe it's the Heat, maybe it's the Knicks, or maybe it's the Nets. They're going to have to give him a lot to get him.
If Pat Riley could do all these players that you just mentioned, that would be basically Big 3 2.0.
There's also another team that's very interested in him, the Pelicans. Have come out and said they're very interested in Bradley Beal. So I am not surprised. This is one of the most underrated players in the NBA right now. One of the top shooting guards that nobody even talks about. Explosive, had his best year this year. Took over the team when John Wall got hurt last year. I love this kid. I think he's going somewhere. MLB rumors. Spencer Torkelson.
There you go.
Tigers did not call me before selecting him first overall. I'm not surprised. Why would they have to call him to tell him that they're going to draft him? But obviously there are teams that have done that. Maybe they were on the cusp of maybe picking another player. But this guy was the number 1 player, and I think he's going to be a fantastic, fantastic player, first baseman moving forward.
I also think he was also, for most people, a unanimous number 1 pick type, where they probably just figured, all right, whoever's going to be first is just going to take it anyway.
Kevin Youkilis witnessed racism against teammates at Fenway Park. I am not surprised. I've heard stories about Red Sox fans screaming racist terms and terminology out to the Yankees or out to CC Sabathia. We've heard stories with the Boston Red Sox fans how egotistic and crazy they are out in the field, and they do say a lot of crazy things out to the players. So I'm not surprised about that.
Yeah, we've heard that recently from Adam Jones, I think even only 2 years ago. And then recently Torrey Hunter came out and said it happened to him. I think Vernon Wells has said it. It's very disappointing that still happens.
MLB players will consider sitting out 2020 season if a deal isn't reached. Again, the MLB are trying to make a deal right now. Obviously, I've been hearing stories with 86, 74, 46, 60. The numbers are just growing and disintegrating. The MLB players want to be paid their money, or at least half their money, or full price money. They wanted 114 games. The MLB owners did not want to give them that. So I do believe they're going to have a season. I just don't know how many games they're going to have. So this will be interesting moving forward. I think in the next week, if there's not a contract moving forward, I could see no MLB season this year.
I think the players want anywhere between 65 and 70% of their contract what they would have made, and the owners want 40.
Max Scherzer takes another jab at the MLB team owners on Twitter. Again, he wants to be paid all his money. This is a guy that's making about $18 million a year. He's not going to want to cough up any of that money. Why would they want to cough up any of the money that they have earned and they've really deserved the compensation? These are guys that are top players in their league. Max Scherzer is one of the best pitchers in baseball, so I'm not surprised that he is complaining about the owners.
He was one of the highest paid pitchers at his time, and now his contract actually looks like a bargain, so I can see why he doesn't want to do that. NHL rumors and news. Devils GM wants 7 eliminated teams to have access to the players amid layoff. Again, we don't know how they're going to move forward with this. We do know there's going to be about 24 teams in a round robin to move into the playoff in the race. There's going to be no crowds. We do know there are going to be specific places they're going to play. I don't know why this is moving around and back and forth banter or what's going on right now on in the NHL. It would take a lot. The NHL has a lot of healthy scratches, too.
NHL targeting July 10th for Phase 3 to return to play and plan. Again, the NHL is trying to move forward with their league and their playoff run. Once the NHL comes in, I think the NBA will come in, and then you're going to see the NFL and OTAs and hopefully the MLB. This has been crazy. This COVID-19 has really ruined everything right now, moving forward with professional sports. Sports is life right now, and everybody wants it to come back. As you can see, my hair is done, so
there you go.
Barbers are opening up, so you should be excited about that. I'm ready whenever. The keeper of the Stanley Cup awaits his return to action. Well, he's sleeping with the Stanley Cup, so obviously he wants it back. That's it in the week in entertainment and sports news here on Below the Mic. I do want to get into this Carmelo Anthony situation, and I know a lot of people are not big Carmelo Anthony fans here in New York. I'm one of them that has liked Carmelo Anthony. I think he was a good Samaritan here in New York. He helped the New York Knicks win 54 games in 1 year. He was a runner-up for an MVP play, and he also was he won the scoring title that year. Carmelo Anthony, when you look at him as a player and moving forward, he missed almost a year and a half worth of basketball. And my argument with Carmelo Anthony isn't the fact that he wants to sit out because of COVID-19. It's the way he's doing it, using the press and using his platform to really take over the tabloids and the newspapers. Do we have our first call over today?
Yes, we do. Anthony LaRocco.
Anthony, what's going on, my friend?
Errol, how's it going, my man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just listening to your show for the first time in a while. It's nice to hear your voice again on the radio. Good stuff.
Thank you, my friend. And looking forward to sitting down with you and possibly working out a hockey show on our network.
Yeah, listen, that would be great to get back at it. So I want to talk about briefly. You mentioned the NHL 10 training camps are going to open, and it's good to see them moving ahead. Just wanted to point out the Islanders need to get Ilya Sorokin over to the NHL. The NHL right now put that asinine rule in place where players can't sign for the season. Meanwhile, in prior seasons, it's allowed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado Avalanche made his debut in the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. Chris Kreider signed out of college in 2012 to join the Rangers for the playoffs. So the NHL Players Association is really playing hard on this one. But let me tell you, the Islanders getting Ilya Sorokin in for this year would be unbelievable.
I think Sorokin is a guy that the Islanders have been expecting. I also look at Sorokin. He has come out and said that he wants to come up to the NHL and that the Islanders will have their tabs on giving him that contract. He's going to want a 3-year deal worth about possibly the rookie contract, I think, would be up to, $19 million. That's what I think he's expecting, 3-year deal. I don't know if the Islanders and Lamoriello is going to agree to that, but I do believe Sorokin, he wants to come into the NHL. 2 of his best friends, one of them are playing for the Rangers right now. I think he wants, I think he wants to come up here, and I do think he wants to join the Islanders. I don't know if the Islanders are going to be able to call him up before season's end, especially this year, especially with the whole COVID-19 and traveling from Russia to here. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do believe that the Islanders will get a contract together with Sorokin moving forward after this season.
Now, Anthony, I have a question for you because you're bringing up Cale Makar and Chris Kreider, those circumstances. Do you think there would be more pressure on it if it was a goalie in addition to them being skaters, one obviously a winger, one a defenseman?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The goalie is, it's the most important position in hockey. So for him as a guy to come in and start right away, that would be, that'd be a lot of pressure on him. However, the caveat to that is even if the Islanders can get him signed, Barry Trotz doesn't seem like a guy that's just going to, go to the rookie right away. He has 2 veterans in Semyon Varlamov and Thomas Drake. So, even if the NHL overrides the rule and he's allowed to play this year, the Islanders may use him as the 3rd goalie in training camp and just have him be on the bench in case they get some injuries. But here's the thing with Sorokin, it's very important. He's, due to his age, he's eligible to only sign a 1-year entry-level deal, which means he wants to sign right now and have that contract burn right away.
Right.
Then he automatically becomes a restricted free agent this offseason, and his path to make more money is a lot faster. And if he can't do that, and the NHL doesn't override this rule, he may stay in Russia for another year because the KHL is supposedly supposed to start on time. Next NHL season may not start to December or January. So if you're him, why would you wait all the way to December to play hockey when you can start playing hockey again in September? So that's the fear. They don't overrule this, the NHL essentially screws the Islanders out of Sorokin for a whole another year.
Anthony, what is your thoughts right now with the 24-team round robin? Were you excited when you heard Gary Bettman come out? Because I'm not a Gary Bettman fan, as everybody knows on this show, but I think he's really taken initiative with the NHL and trying to get the game back in order.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was outside the box thinking. I think he took a lot of backlash because, let's face it, with having 24 teams in, like, for instance, the Montreal Canadiens are in the playoffs. If the pandemic never happened, the Canadiens weren't even sniffing the playoffs. They were like 10 points out of a playoff spot. It just wasn't going to happen. So a lot of the hockey purists saying, why are you giving a team like Montreal a chance to all of a sudden be in the dance? But I get why the league did it. Montreal, Chicago out west, those teams, original 6 markets, they have a strong following. So there are going to be a lot of fans tuning in now. So that's why they included them. But I think Bettman did a good job with it. Me personally, I thought he was going to do 20 teams, and that would have cut teams like Chicago and Montreal out of it, and it would have kept the hockey purists a little more.
It would have cut the Islanders out of it too.
No, the Islanders would have been in with 20.
No, the Islanders would have been. The Rangers would have been screwed out of it.
Right.
The Islanders would have been in.
I thought. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the Blue Jackets were the last Metro team.
Okay.
Yeah, the Islanders had a higher point percentage than Columbus, even though Columbus had more points. So the Islanders would have been involved anyway. But no, listen, I think Bettman did a great job. I think it's going to be an excellent tournament. I like the idea of the qualifying round, if you will, only being best of 5. And then after that, everything is traditional best of 7. I think some of the matchups are really intriguing. I think that the Rangers and the Hurricanes, the Hurricanes were one of the 2 teams that voted down the format because the Rangers beat them all 4 times during the regular season. So I think the Hurricanes are really going to come out and try to beat the Rangers. They didn't want to play them, but I think they're going to be a lot of good matchups. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think when you look at the NHL playoffs, it's, to me, and I've said this over and over again, from the NBA to the NFL to any professional sports, I think the NHL has the best playoffs. It's the most exciting. Unfortunately, there's not going to be any crowds out there watching them. So I'm very interested how the players are going to be able to deal with the fact that there's no crowd screaming, there's no chants, there's no anything that you see. It might benefit teams like the Islanders. It really might.
Yeah, it might. I think that's going to be an interesting challenge to the league too. Like for instance, as us, we would love to hear like the banter that goes on the ice, but there are going to be a lot of little kids watching this broadcast, and with no crowd, you're going to be able to hear the players and everything. So the league's going to have to figure out a way to, unfortunately for us, kind of eliminate that because hockey players, the amount of trash they talk, is the expletives flying all over the place. So
oh, come on. Come on, Speedy, we'll have to give him earplugs. But somebody like me and you, I mean, he's too young. I mean, look at him. Look at this guy. I mean, he has a mop on his head right now. He looks like he's 14 years old. So maybe Speedy couldn't listen and watch it. But me and you, we can add. I want to hear what the players say on the ice. I think that would be very interesting to hear all the banter and all the arguing that they have on both sides of the boards.
Absolutely.
I just go ahead.
I think they're going to try to get creative with the presentation of it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Being that there are no fans, I think they're going to try to do some interesting things like to do with like the Winter Classic, how they have just kind of like decorations and design all over the place to give it a little more of an aesthetic feel. Because with no fans in the crowd, they are going to have to do something to make it eye appealing to the person watching it on TV. But I'm interested to see how they put it all together.
Maybe they'll do those cardboard fans like that Korean baseball league's doing.
I want to see what Gary Bettman has in store, especially because I don't know if we're going to know anything until the players start training, and maybe the NHL will come out with possibly because I remember Patrick Kane coming out and saying that he would love for all the players to wear headsets or mics so people can hear them reacting to shift changes, what the coaches say on the bench, and some of the players, the interaction that they have, some of the plans that they have, the plans of attack on how they're going to attack the goalie moving forward. I think that would be very, very interesting to hear what the players are saying on the ice. So I'm interested to see what Gary Bettman is going to try to do, where maybe some of these young kids will get to know a little bit more about some of these players that they root for. I think that would be more intriguing.
Yeah, it would. I think also, too, I don't know how much of a possibility this is, but, if training camp starts July 10th, they say it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks, let's say it's a 3-week-long camp. That means this tournament starts starting to August 1st. So the Stanley Cup isn't being awarded to sometime in early October. I mean, we don't know how things are going to progress from here. I wonder if it's a possibility if by come October they can at least start to let small percentage of fans back in the building for the games. I mean, again, I don't know how feasible that all is. It depends on how much we progress with COVID, but I'm wondering if that's a possibility too. Come October, they could start to have some fans in the building for the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, but wouldn't you want the whole playing circumstances to be the same if you all of a sudden have fans versus a later round versus not having it the whole playoffs? I feel like you have to stick to it at that point.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. If you're going to start one way, finish it that way. But, let's face it, for the NHL to have fans back in the building for the Stanley Cup final, they're going to receive so much revenue from the gate there alone by having fans back. But that's just good. Again, I don't know how feasible it is, but I just wonder if that's something that you're thinking about.
Again, Anthony, I'm looking forward to the NHL coming back, especially the playoffs, because it's the most exciting thing to watch. And hopefully we will have the opportunity to go to the draft this year, because I would love to. Even if the fans aren't allowed there, the press could be there. I would love to go over there and get the opportunity in Montreal to meet some of the young players that are going to be drafted. This is going to be a good draft this year, highly touted, especially some of the offensive players that are coming out. So I'm very intrigued and very interested. So, Anthony, thank you for joining us, and we'll be talking soon, my friend.
Yes, absolutely. And Phil says hello. Just want to pass it along.
Who said hello?
Phil.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Phil, I'll tell you this before you go, and we do have to go in about a minute or two because we have a special guest. Yeah. I will say this. I have a lot of respect for Phil and his knowledge when it comes to hockey, but he is such a homer. He is such a homer when it comes to the New York Rangers. To me, he was so he was so on the whole Panarin thing and all this other stuff. He thinks everybody on the Islanders stink besides maybe Barzell, and he doesn't even give Barzell enough credit. To me, Filk is a homer, and he should just, maybe he should just clean Mark Messier's underwear. Maybe he'll have an opportunity to win another Stanley. The Rangers might have an opportunity to win a Stanley Cup maybe in the future. But besides that, I mean, I think he wouldn't even wash Mark Messier's underwear. He'd probably sniff it every night before he goes to bed. I mean, seriously. I mean, Filk he's out of his mind. He really is out of control. But he's the underwear sniffer. We all know that. And by the way, when he came to the draft with us, how many pranks did I try to put on this kid? Over and over. I did it to Ashley Sarge. I hit his leg under the sink. So that was interesting. But shout out to Ashley Sarge. I like to kid with Ashley, but I did. Ashley has what do they call that?
Prosthetic leg. A
prosthetic leg, and he took it off before he went to bed, so I hid it under the sink in the bathroom. So, and he got so pissed off at me when he woke up, and he thought somebody actually did rob his leg. So, no, it was me. And then I was laughing. I was on the other side. I was trying to hide my head so he couldn't see me smiling. And I tried to keep a straight face when I couldn't keep a straight face. He got so angry.
Well, don't forget, Errol, that trip almost started with us leaving without stuff. We had to go in his house and wake him up.
Oh my God! Oh, I was up till 3:00 in the morning and I fell asleep. Oh man, Filk is out of his. You know what I wanted to do? I told Anthony. I said Anthony wanted to leave. If you remember, Anthony's like, if he doesn't wake up, we're leaving. And because Anthony was so ecstatic and so happy that we were going to the NHL draft. I wanted to sneak in. We did. We snuck into the basement from his friend, and I wanted to hit him with his hockey stick. And Filk jumped up. I'll never forget it. And this guy barely was wearing anything. I mean, it was disgusting. It really was. And by the way, I love you, Filk. I still love you, even though you're a nut job, and you have such a weird personality. Just say that. And by the way, he has one leg bigger than the other. So there you go.
All right, Errol.
Thank you, Anthony. What a show. What a show. Anthony LaRocca, guys. We are definitely going to bring hockey back to our network, so stay tuned for that. When we come back, we will be talking to Ithaca Football Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak here on Below the Mic.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Six 631-965-4990. As you know, this is Below the Mic. We are live every single Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time. As you know, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com and download our app on iOS and Android. On iOS, WWSRN, and on Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. As you guys know, we have a great show lined up for you, and we have our first guest. We are now talking to Ithaca Football Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. What's going on, Mr. Hudak?
Good evening. Just take it one day at a time here on Long Island. As you know, we started opening up again yesterday, so it feels good.
Oh, it definitely feels good. I got a haircut today, Mark. I got a haircut today. I mean, I'm so excited because I'll tell you this. 9 weeks without a haircut, I look like I had a mop on my head. I look like I look like I had Don King, show me his hairstyle. I really did. It was terrible. It looked like a mop.
Yeah. I know the feeling. I feel like the Wolfman from Glen Cove here. I've got an appointment set for us for Saturday, so I'm looking forward to it.
I don't understand this. You have to set appointments now. It's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
They're backed up. They went from being the industry you didn't want to be in to being the industry you do want to be in. So I'm happy for those people that they're open now.
Money talks, Mr. Hudak.
Yes.
As you guys know, we are talking to Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. So, Mr. Hudak, tell us a little bit about the inductee of 2013 in the Ithaca College Athletic Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, that was a special night, of course. I had a great experience, playing small college football at Ithaca. Uh, my senior year was 1988. We won the national championship that year for Division III, and I was a captain and All-American on the team, and just a phenomenal group of guys. It was a really special season for us. A lot of ups and downs, very challenging, and we ended up coming out on top. And I think obviously the team's success had a large part of me getting in the Athletic Hall of Fame at Ithaca College. I was recognized personally, but I've always considered that a reflection on the success we had as a team, and it was a great night. It was something I've really appreciated over the years, and I'm hoping that my team gets inducted in these next couple of years.
Talk about that season as a whole. In the Division III National Championship in 1988, you were one of the offensive linemen that was very good on that team. And again, talk about your playing career as a whole. You played there, I think, from 86 to that year, and then just that season. What were the emotions like? What was the experience like?
Well, it was an interesting season. We always took pride in playing, a very challenging Division III schedule. Our first game of the year, our starting quarterback broke his leg in the first half of the game against Albany. And always a stern test for us to start out the season. We won that game and ended up putting a freshman in really the second game and continued to win. We had a very good team, of course. But anytime you put a freshman in a quarterback, it's challenging to say the least. And then, we proceeded through the season unbeaten until we got to our Cortica game against our big rival Cortland, which was week 8. It was later in the it's now the last game of the season, but it was week 8 back then. And, the Cortica Jug back then, I think it was really, a real perennial power back in the 80s. The Cortica Jug sat in our film room and it collected dust for the most part. I don't even know if we took it to the games. I think the 2 years before my sophomore and junior year, I think we had beaten Cortland like 35-7, 45-7, something along those lines. But they were undefeated, and they had actually a guy by the name of Dennis Kaiser coaching them, who was an Ithaca guy who had been there. That was his third year. He had really turned the program around, and they were undefeated. And I remember taking the bus over to Cortland because, the two schools are only 17 miles apart. So we bussed over there for the game, and it just, the magnitude of, the press and the media and the schools had been building up the matchup. There were two undefeated teams going into that week 8 matchup. And we, got off the bus, and there were, 10, 15,000 people screaming and yelling at us. And, when you pack that many people into those smaller Division III stadiums, it's electric. And, we end up losing that game 21-20. We hadn't lost to Cortland in a while. It was one of those games where, the conditions were not ideal. The officiating was, I'll say, a little slanted, and we just didn't play our best. But we ended up losing that game 21-20. And, in Division III football, in order to get in the playoffs, you can really only afford to have really, sometimes you have to go undefeated to get in. I think the field back then was 16 teams. Anyway, we had to win out to get into the playoffs, and then we ended up, we had to beat an undefeated Washington Jefferson team to get into the playoffs. So then the first week of the playoffs, first round, I should say, we were sent to, because we were a wild card now, because we had a loss, we were sent to Wagner College to play the defending national champions, who were also, I want to say they were undefeated as well. And they were loaded. They had great back, great quarterback, great talent all the way around. So we won that game at Wagner in double overtime. It was an unbelievable game. Again, electric, packed house, both sides of the field. And I will say, after we won that game, we were really on our way. We went back home and we played Cortland in a rematch. We beat them. We beat the number one offensive team in the country the next week, Ferrum College out of Virginia, who had Chris Warren was their running back. He was a great player for the Cowboys and the Seahawks, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
So we beat them 62-28. Then we ended up going to the national championship, and we beat Central Iowa. They were the number one ranked defensive player in the defensive team in the country, and their nose guard was the player of the year in Division III. So that's who I had to block all day. But we won the game 39-24, and it was we ended up the season 13-1. It was a real it was a real run to the national championship as things got going. So it was a lot of fun.
We are talking to Ithaca Football Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. Now, Mark, tell us a little bit about Ithaca. I've been to Ithaca. I've been to Cortland. My friends all went to school over there. I've been to Albany. Party schools. I mean, they have a lot of these teams. They have very good academic, especially Cortland. They're very, very well known for the physical education department. Tell us a little bit about Ithaca and the growth of the school since you've been in the school and now.
Well, the schools, first of all, I'll say this, the city of Ithaca, geographically, you've got Lake Cayuga there. It's a beautiful setting. It's in the Finger Lakes in central New York. You've got Cornell on East Hill, and you've got Ithaca on South Hill, and the city of Ithaca sits down in the valley, if you will, between the two. And it's a great college town. I mean, I think universally recognized as one of the top 5 college towns in the country. It's a great place to go to school, physically. The college is about 6,500 students these days, maybe a little larger than when I went there. But it's not a liberal arts college. A lot of people think it's a liberal arts school. It's a private professional program school. You could get a liberal arts degrees, but you can get a professional degree in a number of different areas. Our business school is on the rise, always been known as a great school for physical therapy, occupational therapy, health sciences, and communication school. The Park School is one of the best communication schools in the country. I'm sure you're aware of that. Locally, Bruce Beck, who we all know and love here in our local New York City metro market, is an Ithaca grad. Kevin Connors on ESPN comes to mind. Carl Ravitch, and of course the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, is a Ithaca grad. So there's in media, David Muir from ABC, Ithaca grad. So great communication school, very good business program, great health sciences. And the other thing that's a lot of people don't know about Ithaca College is the music and theater arts program is one of the best in the country. So very diverse academically, very, it's a liberal, pretty liberal, small college setting, and a great place to go to school, and a different philosophically than a Cortland, and Cortland, I which I'm sure we'll get to, but I promoted and I put together the Cortica Jug game in MetLife Stadium last year, and I got a chance to work with Mike Ertz, the athletic director at Cortland, and the people over there, and they've got a great, Cortland's again, great small college environment, beautiful physical location. I mean, their facilities, athletically speaking, are really fantastic. The Jets used to hold their training camp there, so they have great facilities, and the people there. I met, I had the pleasure of meeting the president of Cortland, and the administration. The people there are fantastic. So it's a very listen. It has been a testy rivalry over the years on the field, and it's gotten out of control at different times. But it's a congenial, collegial relationship between the two schools and the administrations, and it was a real pleasure being a part of that.
You actually brought up the communications. That's actually interesting. I had one of my best friends in high school who also played baseball there at Ithaca, was part of that communications program. Now he's writing for a very popular website for the Mets. So
why is he writing for us, Speedy?
Why is he writing for us? I don't know.
Why is he writing for us? He's such a popular guy.
So, well, we got Tim LaCastro as.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that name too in one of our conversations. So yeah,
he ended up the season. He was with the Yankees for a while, but he ended up with the. Had a very good year with Arizona, I believe.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, Mark, in terms of the magnitude of the rivalry itself, the Cortaca Jug, like you were saying, it's a late season rivalry right around that Thanksgiving window. Talk about the magnitude of it, what it means for D3 football, and again, comparing it to other rivalries we see in D1 sports and even professional sports. Do you consider it a top tier rivalry like that?
Well, I mean, I would. I think what's exciting is I think a lot of people are starting to, not just, I'm biased for sure, but I think, leading into this year, so this past year, of course, it's called the Cortaca Jug, which comes from combining Cortland and Ithaca. This past year, we put the game in MetLife Stadium. My friend Bobby Garone, who's a Suffolk County guy, and I sort of put that whole thing together, and we're both very active with the National Football Foundation, so we were able to bring them as a host, and then we brought some sponsors together, and we set the Division III attendance record, all-time single game attendance record, with 45,161 people that came to the game. So I know that, for instance, the Yankees, have hosted a number of smaller college football games. They hosted Princeton and Dartmouth this past season. I think they got 20,000 people. The only that kind of crowd outdraws most Division I schools on a normal Saturday in the fall. So I think that says a lot. I mean, it was a great turnout. It was a great scene for college football. I think and it was a great game. And I think the people were, if you've never seen I'll call it a high level Division III football game, it's very entertaining, and it's played at a very high level athletically. And I think some of my friends who had never been to that game were really impressed. So
we are talking to Ithaca Football Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. Mark, tell us a little bit about the National Football Foundation.
Well, the National Football Foundation is a great organization. It really supports and promotes amateur football at all levels throughout the United States. And it's consisted of chapters. I think there's 120 chapters right now in the United States. They typically have been in places they typically thrive in, college football towns, Athens, Georgia, Knoxville, Tennessee, Austin, Texas, Columbus, Ohio, places where there's big time college football programs. But they also thrive in smaller towns throughout the country where there's a football culture. The National Football, in addition to supporting and promoting the game, the National Football Foundation also owns and operates the College Football Hall of Fame. So they're the custodian of that. And that's a big deal. And most recently, they built a brand new Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia. That is really if you're into college football, that's a great place to go. So they operate the process to maintain that facility, but also to elect new players and coaches to the Hall of Fame. But the thing I like most, so the organization really thrives on two levels. On the big picture national industrial football complex of being involved in the college football playoffs, the College Football Hall of Fame, but then also at a local level, on the chapter level through these 120 chapters where in New York City, for instance, the chapter that I'm chairman of, I have a board of directors, guys who come from all walks of life. We've got the finance guys, but we've also got Mark Holtzman, who from the Yankees. We've got Ernie Accorsi, the retired manager of the Giants, my friend Rob Whalen, who is the director of the Heisman Trophy, executive director of the Heisman Trophy, Donnie McPherson, great Syracuse player from Long Island. Got a very diverse and influential board. We have a dinner every spring where we recognize Mr. Football New York City, the Player of the Year in New York City. We pick an Elite 11 team, the 11 best scholar athlete football players in the 5 boroughs of New York City. Coach of the Year. We recognize what we call our Ernie Accorsi award winner, which is somebody who's done great things in the game of football, but also off the field. And then we do honor a couple other people, our Founders Award, different things. But it's a great night for football because the Giants and the Jets sponsor it, along with the New York Athletic Club and various other private backers as well. And we typically get about 350 people to the dinner, and it's like the one night a year where our local New York City football community comes together, and we recognize these kids who have not just excelled on the field, but also excelled in the classroom, and they're good citizens, and they represent all the things that we want to see these guys representing in the game of football.
Do you think your foundation and company really helps shed light on maybe, like you were saying, some of those other lesser known football schools that are great football cultures, whether it's FCS schools, whether it's D3, something like that? Do you think that ends up helping raising just not necessarily awareness, but just more, I guess, media showing and more publicity to them?
Well, the one thing I think that I've seen, I became chairman of the New York City chapter. I don't know. It's interesting because the National Football Foundation was formed in 1947 by Dwight D. Eisenhower, General Douglas MacArthur, and the great sports writer Grantland Rice. And they really wanted to promote team sports, and in particular, football as a way post-World War II to, foster leadership and teamwork and all the things that we're talking about, academic performance, contributions to local communities. They really wanted to put this, to really form this organization to really help mold the next generation of young men in the country post-World War II. So every year since then, they had this black tie gala, still do, at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. Last couple of years, the Waldorf has been undergoing renovations, but so they've done it at the Marriott Marquis. But the point being, for that dinner, it brings, the entire football community nationally together. It's a, $8,000 a seat table, and all the college football programs, are there, and they have their own set of awards and the whole 9 yards. But what I'm getting at in a roundabout way, locally, what I've seen happen since I took over our chapter, these New York City coaches are doing incredible work. Okay, now I don't know whether I'll say we've made our own contributions to their culture, but from where we started, let's say 8 years ago, and where the kind of kids that we were putting on the team, the Elite 11 team, those kids are selected not only for football but also academics and their community work and their leadership and so on and so forth. The caliber, and not to say anything negative about our first team or our second team, but the kids that are making these teams are so impressive. It's incredible. And the coaches in New York City, Ernie Accorsi said to me when we were getting our chapter off the ground, he said, Mark, George Young said to me once that these kids in New York City have to overcome so much just to play the game of football. They got to take the subway. They might not have a practice field. They might be able to only practice a couple days a week, whatever the situation may be. So we've gone from that kind of environment to an environment where, these kids are getting highly recruited now, and they're getting professional high school coaching. I like to call that, the coaching that they're getting professional, because these coaches in the city, they're going to clinics, they're going to colleges to visit, they're taking their kids places to partake in, passing camps, and it's really elevated the level of play, but also the level of kids that are kind of coming out of New York City now. Our first Mr. New York football, Isaiah Wilson from Brooklyn Poly Prep, we started this award 4 years ago. He was just selected the last pick in the first round of the NFL draft by the Tennessee Titans. So you're getting really good kids out of this area, Long Island included, but also New York, you know, who are getting great coaching, great guidance, and then going on to have like really good college careers and sometimes even pro.
As you guys know, we are talking to Ithaca Football Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. Moving on to the NFL. And Mark, I know you're a football fan. You played football. And the NFL seems to like to change rules. And they're right now trying to design this onside kick if you decide you don't want to go for or they're trying to get rid of the onside kick and move to a 4th and 10.
15.
4th and 15 on your own 25. And if you get it, you get the ball back. Now, you look at the NFL and you look at what happened to the Saints a couple of years ago, which cost them possibly a Super Bowl championship, and bringing in arguments and challenges when it comes to plays that they think the coaches think they can argue and challenge. Do you think the NFL and Roger Goodell is hurting the game or helping the game by changing these rules?
Well, right now, as you know, the focus is on player safety, right? I mean, that's what's driving a lot of these. It's always with respect to rules change. It's either about competition or it's about player safety. You know, especially on the kickoff and kickoff return side of things. I mean, you know, these coaches are so creative and they've just created different ways where, you know, you're really attacking the ball and the guys who are sitting there are taking a tremendous. I was always on the kickoff return team, and you know you're sort of backpedaling, and these guys have a 40-yard head start, and you're taking them on. Those collisions are, you know, significant. So I think a lot of these rules with respect to the kickoff, kick return game, onside kicks, you know, it's about player safety. So, you know, I'm all for that. I don't think it substantively changes. You know, I haven't seen the latest proposal, but I don't, you know, I'd rather modify some of those things than modify some of the more, you know, substantive things that we know that constitute the game of football. And, you know, and I think, you know, with respect to replay, look, that what happened to the Saints 2 years ago was really a disaster. And, you know, if you can put some processes and procedures in to eliminate those things from happening again, you know, you got to do it, you know. So, you know, the game's going to, you know, the game's, Roger Goodell has a tough job. I mean, he's highly compensated. So, you know, I think that goes with the territory, you know, that goes with the territory. But I think overall, he's done a pretty good job. You know, these are not the easiest of times either in many ways. And I think he's done a pretty good job of navigating the waters for the most part.
Last question for me. After your playing career at Ithaca, you actually became an offensive line coach at Pitt. And one of the guys you coached ended up being a Hall of Famer in the NFL, in Reuben Brown. Talk about your experience coaching him and coaching at Pitt when you were there.
That time in my life, those 2 years I was at Pitt was a really great time for me personally and professionally. Pittsburgh is a great city to live in. If you've ever been there, I mean, the city itself has a lot to offer. And, you know, Pitt football is a big deal there. And Pitt football has a great history. I personally love that whole, you know, steel town, tough Western PA kind of mentality that they have there. So I was right at home. I love being there. You know, I used to ride my bike from my apartment to Pitt Stadium and like ride my bike right into Pitt Stadium and park it and, you know, go to my office and go to work. Johnny Majors was the head coach there. Coach Majors just recently passed away, which was very,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Great guy, great person. I love Coach Majors. He was such a nice man. You know, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame player, great player, you know, Heisman runner up in, I want to say 1957, maybe something along those lines. And just a coaching tree, incredible coaching tree. Johnny, Dave Wanstead, Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer. I mean, he just had an incredible coaching tree. At one time, I think it was like second only to Bill Walsh. But Ruben I was assistant offensive line coach, and I worked with the tackles and tight ends primarily. And Ruben didn't need a whole lot of coaching, but I coached him. I mean, and he lives on Long Island. He could attest to. I'd get in there and bark at him a little bit, but he was such an incredible athlete, and Ruben, when he was at Pitt, when I was there, Ruben was not a great fan of conditioning, was kind of always a heavier guy, but always had incredible, athleticism and feet, footwork, was a guy who would run a 4.8, 4.9. I mean, he was a great athlete. But as he evolved as a player and went to the NFL and played for the Bills, I'm originally from Orchard Park, so I mean they love him in Buffalo. He really became a pro, and by that I mean he really learned to take care of his body. He became became a student of the game. I mean he had a great pro career, great college career, great pro career, and a great guy. And he came from inner city Pittsburgh, didn't come from a lot, and he had to sort of grow out of that. Went through a couple instances of his own, and really matured into a really good person and well liked by universally well liked and a great player.
As you guys know, we are talking to Ithaca Football Hall of Famer and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. Before we let you go, Mark, I do want to tell you this. I respect everything that you have pointed to us and really given us some great information on Ithaca, your career. And I want to give a shout out to somebody that actually got you on our show, and that's Jillian, our social media. I call her our social media queen. She has worked very, very hard, bringing in so many different guests on our network. And I wanted to give her a shout out with you on the phone. So, she's great. She works her butt off, and we have some great people working here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Jillian, too. Well, thank you for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. If we would love to come and interview in person, and maybe even come to one of your events for the National Football. The National Football Foundation. We would love to come down, interview some of the people that run the organization. It would be great.
I'd love to have you come aboard and participate. That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. We'll reach out to you. We really appreciate you joining us, Mark.
Guys, thank you so much. Good luck with the show, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, guys.
As you guys know, that was Mark Hudak. Gave us some good information about Ithaca, his Hall of Fame career, and really just telling us what he thought about with the football changes and really the growth of the NFL moving forward. A great interview. When we come back, we're going to get into some NBA conversation. I've got a lot to say, and then we're going to have our second guest, which we'll be talking to Shaye Bowden here on the one, the only, Below the Mic.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
631-965-4990 is the number to call. This is Below the Mic. We are live every single Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time. As you guys know, you can follow us by going to our website at www.Worldwide Sports Radio Network. As you guys know, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to Mark Hudak. Gave us some great pointers, not only with Ithaca, but sports and really the National Football Foundation. Great interview. Gave us some great information. So shout out to Mark Hudak. I do want to get into this before we have our next guest, Shaye Bowden, who's going to be joining. She's going to be joining us in about 10 minutes. Here's the problem here, and I itch my head with this because, again, LeBron James is the spokesman right now for the NBA. He's the best player in the NBA. He's the superstar of the NBA. And maybe he isn't the best player in the NBA anymore. Maybe it's Giannis or Anthony Davis or whoever you want to pick, any one of them. Mm-hmm. But the problem with LeBron James lies with his mouth. And this has been the problem not only with LeBron James, it's been a problem with Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, really that whole 2004, 2003, and 2002 draft class. And they've been running the NBA rampantly for the last 20 years.
And it's not going to go away anytime soon.
And some of the young players, when we just talk about Giannis and Anthony Davis and some of the growing superstars that we're seeing grow and soon to be Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett and all the different talented players we've seen come in and out of the last couple of drafts. What bothers me about the NBA right now and LeBron James is LeBron James just seems to talk not only for the players, he talks for the league.
Yeah, it seems like he's been like that for a while, but now especially more with everything going on. He really has been speaking a lot. And again, that's who he is. But again, yeah, I would agree with you. A little
Social media has been my concern, not only for the NBA, but professional sports. Now, Twitter is used as a platform for these players to get their opinions out, not only to the world, but to the fan. Here's the problem with Twitter. The problem with Twitter is you're listening to the player on what he thinks, not what everybody else is thinking. He speaks for all the other players, even though the other players might not agree with LeBron James. And LeBron James, and I've said this over and over again, there's no doubt he's one of the greatest basketball players of all time. There's no doubt that he is. The problem with him is he has a platform where he can shake and bake or whatever he wants to do, where he can structure what he says to be the answers to whatever his opinion is to the world.
Yeah, and again, it's because there's going to be more social medias, more technology that comes in. It's not going to be something that goes away anytime soon. So we're seeing it now where some people obviously are embracing it and fighting with him and speaking in their mouths all the time. And there's others like you and I that, yeah, we know what he's fighting for. We get what he's fighting for. But again, do you have to say something every day?
Have you? And there's a guy named Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid is very high profile, loves to open his mouth. How many times did we see him on Twitter over the last 2 years attack players? He's attacked Kevin Durant, he's attacked Steph Curry, he's attacked LeBron James, he's attacked practically everybody in the NBA. We haven't heard Joel Embiid say nothing about what's going on in the NBA, what's going outside the NBA, none of this. And the reason why is, and I think Joel Embiid has it right, is he realizes it right now in the world with everything going on, sometimes it's best not to speak. Right. Sometimes it's not. And LeBron James, and I understand he uses the platform just like Colin Kaepernick did with kneeling to the national anthem. To me, it sets forth not only that LeBron James is going to be looked at this right now in a high-profile time, COVID-19. This will be remembered. COVID-19 year will be remembered because we have never had a loss of season as long as we have in professional sports since the 1930s and 40s.
Right. World War II was the last time a lot of baseball players, some football players went in there from 1942 after the U.S. got bombed by Pearl Harbor to 45. That was the last time. And there were even some other independent leagues that were playing at that time. It's not like there was nothing like we have now.
And this is not make and take shots at LeBron James week, okay? Because I did say what I felt about LeBron James on Tuesday, and Carl, shout out, one of our fans, reached out to me after the show and pretty much told me, why would you blame LeBron James for the Big Three team thing where all these top superstars are now joining forces to win championships because the Boston Celtics did it with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen.
Yeah, theirs was a trade, though. That wasn't guys forming together all the time. Unless, again, it wasn't noted that those guys were forming, but that was a trade. There's a big difference between that and players essentially tampering with each other to say, all right, we're going to go play here next year when you're in the middle of another season.
Let me ask you guys a question. Michael Jordan was in the league for almost 14, 15 years. Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan never joined forces with anybody on another team. He was a Chicago Bull. He never went to another team except the Bullets because he was running the organization when he went to the Bullets. He's the one that hired Doug Collins, and Doug Collins is the one who asked Michael Jordan to come back because he believed that Michael Jordan had a little bit left, which he did before he tore his meniscus. But you never saw Michael Jordan go out and try to form a big three or go and play with Magic Johnson or Larry Bird, like I said on Tuesday. You never saw that. And the one thing that I can say about Michael Jordan that you never did see is you never heard Michael Jordan talk about things politically off the court. Right. And you heard that in The Last Dance. He didn't want to get into the politicians or the political end. He just wanted to play the game of basketball and to be the best player he could be. Why is it that LeBron James politically opens his mouth? LeBron James likes to put his 2 cents with everything that's going on in the world when it has nothing to do with him. And I'm sorry, it doesn't have anything to do with him. And the way the NBA is designing this round robin, LeBron James has his own thoughts to it. Now, LeBron James, and I will say this over and over again, he needed that other superstar player to play beside him with the Lakers if they had any chance of winning a championship. There were stories coming out last year before the Pelicans decided not to trade him that LeBron James was trying to persuade Anthony Davis at the All-Star game to come aboard and come and play with the Lakers. And there were stories coming out from the Lakers organization that it wasn't a sure thing that he was going to go to the Lakers because he was very intrigued with the New York Knicks and that organization with some of the youth that they have over there and the money that he can make and the endorsements he can get in New York City.
Yeah, again, the Lakers seem like a sure thing for a lot of teams or a lot of players now, but a lot of times it doesn't happen that way. We saw with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, too.
Well, Paul George, and I know a lot of people thought he was going to go to the Lakers. Paul George, who grew up a Laker fan, grew up in L.A., he always wanted to play for the L.A. Lakers. He didn't want to play with LeBron James. And I'll tell you this right now, say whatever you want to say about LeBron James. I don't think Anthony Davis wants to play there either. The only reason why Anthony Davis wanted to go over there is because he thought he had a better chance of winning over there, and he knew that the Lakers were going to make a significant trade and give up a significant stock to get him.
So from that logic, do you think he has a better chance of leaving if they do win or don't win?
I don't know if Anthony Davis is going to stay there, even if they do win or lose this year. Anthony Davis becomes an unrestricted free agent. A restricted free agent this offseason. That means he can decide where he wants to go. And I've heard stories coming out, not only from his camp, but other camps, that he wants to go back to Chicago. And he wants to play for his hometown, a team that he grew up rooting for, Michael Jordan. That's why he wore number 23. And that's why he wears number 23. And that's why LeBron gave him the number 23, Michael Jordan. Right. So I do believe Anthony Davis believes that it's not a sure thing that he's coming back to the Lakers. And he wants to have the best chance and the best team to go out there and win a championship. That doesn't mean he's going to stay with the Lakers. And LeBron James will try everything and try to persuade his way in. I mean, there were stories coming out from LeBron James' camp with Bronny Jr. Stating that Bronny Jr. wants the league to take away the fact that you have to go and play college basketball or play in the G League and just come into the NBA at the age of 17, 18 like his father did when they took it away probably...
I think 2007.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years after LeBron James came into the league. The problem here with LeBron James is he is trying to make rules for the NBA. Him and Chris Paul, and I love Chris Paul, and I have a lot of respect for Chris Paul as a player. Chris Paul is the biggest pain in the ass. He really is. I don't want to hear about his State Farm garbage that he puts on TV and LeBron James being a part of it, and then James Harden being a part of it. To me, it's a publicity stunt, and the fact that Chris Paul wants his face on every single media outlet, internet outlet, it's ridiculous. Him and LeBron James have been not only the spokesman for the NBA and the Players Union for the last few years, to me, they've been the appealing poison that the NBA has been trying to get rid of for the last couple of years, ever since David Stern stepped down and Adam Silver took over. So I think the NBA needs to look at this. They need to somehow get to LeBron James and tell LeBron James to keep his mouth shut, because LeBron James, for some reason, not only wants to be a part of the production end of movies or making TV shows or doing everything else. Now he's creating a coloring book and a book. I mean, this guy has his hand dipped into everything. I mean, He's multifaceted, and to me, he's a great player. Nobody's taking away from his talent. He just needs to learn how to shut his mouth.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
And again, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. With again, just more media outlets being around and a lot of good young players.
Well, let's put Kevin on quickly because we have our next guest that's going to be coming in. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Just want to talk some NBA. I got a quick question for you guys. So a lot of people have been saying Luka Doncic, he's a shoo-in to be an NBA champion. Like, there's no doubt about it. This dude's a future champion. And my response is, I don't think they realize how hard it is to win a championship in the NBA. And you look at the amount of great NBA players that have never won a championship. And I feel the league is as competitive as ever right now. And what do you think about that? Do you think this idea that he's going to come in and win a championship in a couple of years, and no doubt, I don't know about that.
I will say this. Luka Doncic is one of the best young superstars in the NBA. We've seen this kid develop in 2 years to be one of the most highly profiled players in the NBA. For the Dallas Mavericks and Mark Cuban, bringing Kristaps Porzingis, a player that he played with overseas, knows the game, it does help him grow as a player. The problem with the Dallas Mavericks is they don't have that other superstar player. They don't have that type of player. They need that third guy, and their bench is not that good. And that's the problem with the Dallas Mavericks. To win a championship, you need that bench help. They don't have that anymore. And they had Barnes. They had all these different players that they decided to move away from because they thought bringing in Kristaps Porzingis and paying him the $100 million contract that he wanted, he decided to wean his way away from the New York Knicks because he didn't want to play there for that organization, which to me was a crock of you-know-what. But do I think Luka Doncic is going to win a championship in the next 3 or 4 years? Unless Dallas finds a way to add another superstar in the draft or try to tally away from some of the players that they've given big contracts to, Tim Hardaway Jr. being one of them, they're not going to win a championship because they don't have enough on their bench to do that. Is Luka Doncic going to be that next big superstar? I think him and Giannis are the next big superstars in the NBA.
Absolutely, I agree. He's a superstar, but there's a lot of superstars in the NBA right now, but that aren't champions. For example, Chris Paul, that dude's a perennial all-star, and big name in the NBA. He's always on commercials, just like you're saying, but he wasn't a champion. He's never won a championship. So that's my take regarding Luka Doncic being a champion. But I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think their bench is really good. I think they have some good guys on the bench.
Who?
Curry.
Who? Seth Curry?
Seth Curry, yeah.
Seth Curry's
been okay, but he's not a consistent
He's
guy.
not a consistent player. He's a good three-point shooter. He's not his brother. And he's more known as a defensive player than he is as an offensive player. So is he a good player? He's a quality player coming off the bench. Is he a player that's going to help you win a championship? If you add another big-time player, like if you add a Carmelo Anthony to that team that's going to give you a 19, 20-point off the bench, yeah, then you could start talking about your bench being good. But they don't have a player like that coming off the bench.
They're stuck with too many bad
Carmelo
contracts.
Anthony, no, they need to stay away from him. They need another defensive player. They need another gritty defensive player.
Well, I'm not saying Carmelo Anthony, Kevin, I'm not saying Carmelo Anthony. They need a Carmelo Anthony-esque type of player that's going to give you 18, 19, or 20 points off the bench. They don't have a player of that magnitude. And that's the problem with the Dallas Mavericks. And those players are not easy to find.
Yeah, I think what they really need is a rough and rugged guy down low. Powell's out this season. He was kind of that guy. He was like that defensive anchor, just all effort, do the dirty work type of player. They really don't have that. Kristaps Porzingis, he's not that guy. He's a flash guy. He's a skills player. They need a rough and rugged, down and dirty guy who's going to get in there, throw some elbows around, get some big boards.
Maybe they could hire you.
Defense.
Maybe they could hire you.
I wish I'd come there. Get rid of Cuban in a heartbeat. I don't like Cuban.
Well, how much will Mark need to pay you to drop elbows on some of the best players in the NBA?
Oh, they can give me at least $2 million.
$2 million?
Ready to go.
I'll take $100,000. I'll drop knees on some of the players. I'll drop knees, elbows, whatever you want for $100,000.
Hey, my next point before I head out, Jokic. I've seen some pictures recently, and the dude looks skinny. He's freaking skinny. And people were saying he needs to lose some weight. I don't know about that. I think his weight benefited him because he's not like a real quick, unless he comes back and he's really quick all of a sudden, real agile. But that wasn't his game. He was like a bulky. He used to throw his weight around and real athletic, real talented around the basket, had a nice touch. So what do you guys think about that?
Well,
him losing weight.
Well, and I saw Jokic. I saw the pictures of Jokic and how thin he got. First of all, he has got some of the best footwork in the NBA. And as a big man, you need that footwork. And losing weight only helps his footwork laterally. And I think that's why, because he became one of the best big men perimeter shooters in the NBA. And using the pick and roll the way they do in the way they play, especially in Denver, it's only going to make him better on the outside to the inside. The guy is a tremendous athlete, and I think it's only going to help him. Now, if it doesn't, he could always put that weight back. It's not hard to put weight back from losing it. So I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think it's going to make him a better player.
Jokic he's not got the respect, man. What he's been doing, I think he's like 10th all time in triple doubles, and he's been in the league how long? A short amount of time. He's like a walking triple double.
Yep, he's a fantastic player.
The effortless, the buzzer beaters. He's pretty much been carrying the Denver Nuggets. But people want to put Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns and all these other players. That don't make no sense. I think Jokic is highly underrated. I think he's a top 10 player right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Center in the league. I think he's the best center in the league. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup from what I foresee. The Denver Nuggets versus the Mavericks in the first round. I'm going to get your guys' thoughts if they play, and I'll leave it to it. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Kevin. It's going to be a great series. And the Nuggets and the Mavericks, I think the Nuggets are going to kill them. I think they're going to kill them. They're just a better all-around team. They have so much depth. You want to talk about a team that has one of the best benches in the NBA. That's the Nuggets. They're loaded on the bench. And they're as dangerous as the Lakers, as dangerous as any team right now in the Western Conference. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Oregon softball player Shaye Bowden here on Below the Mic.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Speedy, you going to dance or what, man? Public Enemy? Speedy, don't dance. Please, you're scaring me. You don't want to scare the fans. You really don't. 631-965-4990. As you know, this is Below the Mic. We are live every single Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time. And remember, you can call us at 631-965-4990 and go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. We talked to Mark Hudak. And now we're talking to our second guest, and I was very intrigued when I heard she was going to come on with us. Shout out to Jillian and Ricky for reaching out to her. We are now talking to Oregon softball player Shaye Bowden. What's going on, Shaye?
Hi there. How are you guys?
We are good, man. New York, rainy, disgusting, humid, and I'm sitting next to this guy. He kind of has a little stench to him, so...
do what you gotta do.
Yes, well, that's Speedy for you. Anyways, how are you and your family doing with the pandemic?
We're doing really well. My parents are both real estate agents and construction workers, so they actually are doing okay because they bought a house and so they're redoing that. So their lives haven't changed too much, which is a really big blessing.
Are you helping? Are you helping them? Are you helping them fix that house up?
I'm trying. I helped them with the first house. The second house, I've been a little lazy.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm still in school. So we have finals this week. I took my last final today. But I've been doing really well. I had surgery about 5 weeks ago, and I'm recovering, so that's really nice.
I saw your pictures on Instagram, and you gave the 2 thumbs up. So why did you have surgery?
I tore my labrum playing softball last year, and so we've just kind of been going through the recovery process. We wanted to make sure that it was the right thing to do.
We are talking to Oregon softball player Shaye Bowden. Shaye, tell us a little bit about Oregon and playing for a very well-known school that's sponsored by Nike, which I think it's only one. I think they're the only school that actually sponsored by Nike.
They're one of the, I think, only 4 or something Power 5 conferences, I think it is.
Tell us a little bit about your school, the academic, and really the softball team and the sports over there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being in Oregon is completely different from Arizona, which is where I'm originally from. And I went there on my unofficial visit, and I just absolutely fell in love with the whole environment of, like, the campus and just how beautiful it is. I walked into the softball field before it was the James Sanders Stadium, and it was, like, basically just a bunch of cement stadiums. It wasn't big, but I just fell so in love with the school. The team is absolutely amazing. Obviously, they went through a little turbulence my sophomore season, and so coming from that, our team has grown so much, and we're all best friends. Like, one of my teammates is visiting right now, and we keep in contact every single day. So it's really nice. But the academics is, I mean, it's college. You know how it is. It is what it is.
Oh, my God. I hated school. And I was a big-time hockey player. I hated it. And I actually lost my scholarship for hurting my knee, and that's a whole nother story. And this is not about me. This is about you, Shaye. But I did not like school. I am not one of those people. I was an athlete. I was born an athlete. I was not an academic type of person. So Speedy right over here.
Majoring in athletics.
Yeah, he's more of the academic type of guy. I mean, me,
there we go.
I'm more of the speaking, smack you in the back of the head kind of guy, you know?
Shaye, you talk about that 2019 season. It was very impressive. 33 RBIs. You had a .315 batting average on that Oregon team last year. Talk about the approach you had during that season, the growth of your game, and some of your favorite plays.
Yeah, definitely. It was kind of just a free kind of year. You know, we didn't have nobody really had any intentions for us. Like, everybody was kind of just like thinking we were the underdog. So we didn't really have a lot of pressure on our shoulders. And that's when I played the best. And I think that having my team behind me and being able to rely on them and knowing that they were never going to give up made the game just so much easier to play. Hitting is always one of those things where it's either off or it's on. There's never a good balance. And I think that there were times last year where we could definitely see that I was struggling, and same with the team. We struggled sometimes, but at the end of the day, like, we tried our best with what we had. I think something that stood out to me was I hadn't caught before last year in probably 4 years. So that was my first season catching in about 4 years. So being able to throw out as many people as I did and having, like, my team support me through all of it and help me get back into the catching shape was what stood out the most in the season for me personally.
Now, Shaye, what is it like? I mean, and I've seen some of these pitchers in college throw, and some of them throw like 93, 95 miles per hour, and they throw these softballs, which were twice the size of a baseball. And this can come at your head. It can come inside. What is it like standing in the box and seeing one of these things whiff right past your head? What is it like?
It's intense. One of the girls we faced, Washington, Turnavella, she throws 71 consistently, like 70 to 71. And me and one of my teammates, before the game, we put the machine on 68, and we stood 10 feet away from the machine and just swung. Just to look at a ball. But it's absolutely intense. Like, you have Rachel Garcia throwing a rise ball inside on your hands, and it is the most interesting thing when you look at it on the outside, but in the box it doesn't seem as bad, but it's definitely, it freaks you out for sure.
I'll tell you this. I've watched some of these girls pitch, and it looks like it's going to go low, and then it shifts high. It just elevates. And it's funny because my friend actually coaches high school out here, and I came to one of his practices, true story. And I am a good baseball player. I was always a good baseball player. Never struck out. Never. I struck out maybe twice in high school.
Wow.
Okay? And I stood in the box with this girl, and he told me, you have to watch this girl pitch. She was a sixth grader. And she was throwing 68 or 69 miles per hour. I was like, I can hit a 68, 69 mile. I hit 90 mile per hour fastballs and curveballs that go 80. I can hit this. I'll tell you this right now. She not only embarrassed me, the parents were laughing. I was standing there in the box. I was like, it shifted. It dipped. And the way they put spin on the ball and how big the ball is, I don't know how these young girls get the grip that they do to maneuver the ball the way they do. It's unbelievable.
It's insane, especially how much the game's developed with the younger girls.
Now, you play multiple positions on your team. You mentioned you're playing catcher last season, and you also play first base and right field. Which one is your favorite to play, and which do you think you're best at?
My favorite is catcher, and I think I'm also best at catcher. I think it comes naturally to me. I grew up catching my entire life, so I think I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the entire field. I enjoy all of the ability to direct plays and stuff like that. I really enjoy that, and I really enjoy the battery of me and my pitcher. And it's something I work extremely hard on. So.
Oh, just tell the truth. You like the control. Come on. You like the control behind the plates.
Okay, I like the control.
To me, and I want to know your opinion, because me and this guy for years have been arguing about positions in baseball and softball. Please tell this guy, what is the most important position to play in baseball? He thinks it's center field. I have said shortstop. My second position would be catcher. Tell him, what is the most important defensive and offensive position to play?
Okay, so I'm a little biased, but I definitely think catcher and shortstop. So I agree with you. The only reason why I say that is because the shortstop is the commander of all the infield, and the catcher is the commander of the entire field. We see every single play, and the shortstop sees everything happening within the infield.
Are you listening to this, Speedy?
Of course.
Are you listening to how many people have we asked so far?
Yes, I know.
From
I have
softball,
the hot take.
and I just love driving the knife back into you, man. Okay. I love it.
All right, I have the hot take. I think I'm aware of that. Talk about, again, the substitution method with those positions. You play around in different spots, catcher, first base. Now, the substitution method in softball is different, and we actually had a softball coach on Tuesday in Lauren Laporte of James Madison talk about it from a managerial standpoint. From a player standpoint, is it something you embrace, switching positions all the time? And do you like the strategy as a whole, and how does it help your game?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. I enjoy being versatile because I think not only does it help my team, but it also helps me develop as a player. So I think going from catching, which is very hands-on every single play, to maybe going to right field where you might get a ball maybe once a game, if not twice, or not even at all. But it's being able to be versatile so that your coach can make the decisions that are smart for the team. And our entire team is versatile. We have people playing all over the place all the time. And I think that's going to be crucial, especially for next year, having that, so that we don't just have to rely on those same individual people at the same positions.
We are talking to Oregon softball player and star in Speedy and my eyes, Shaye Bowden. And by the way, your numbers are fantastic. Before this show, I asked Speedy, who are we interviewing today? Because sometimes I'm working on so many other stuff for the network. I didn't know who we were interviewing. And then he told me about you, and then he said, go look at her numbers. I'm looking at your numbers. I'm like, these are her numbers? So I am very, very impressed. My question to you is, I watch the World Series of softball, and I get a chance to watch the United States softball team. When the big games, I get the opportunity to watch some of these girls play. And I think it's unbelievable that some of these girls on the field, actually every single one of these girls, are multi-positional players. Like, there are pitchers that can play center field, and the center fielder can come in and play pitcher. The third baseman could pitch. I mean, it's fantastic when I want to see baseball like that. I like to see all different players have multifaceted positions, that they can play multiple positions in the game, where it can make them even more money or better opportunities in the future if they decide to play even longer in their careers.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's just say girls can better adjust. That's all I got to say.
Well, there you have it. I mean, girl power.
But no, I totally agree. I mean, I think that definitely, as we always told, you're too small to catch, you're too small to do this, you're going to get recruited if you play multiple positions, it's going to look better. And then you kind of just grow up playing multiple positions because, well, I mean, what is it going to hurt at the end of the day? If anything, it's making me a better person and a better versatile player, which is going to help my team overall. So,
Do you think that maybe that throughout your career, because there's still plenty of time, do you think you could end up possibly playing even more positions, even pitching at certain points? Or do you think you'll stick to the three you're already playing?
Pitching is absolutely no-go. My hands are too small. I can't do that. No.
Well, you and Speedy have a lot in common then.
Hey, we're bison. I played short when I was growing up, like shortstop. I got recruited as a shortstop, actually. That's what I was coming into college for. And then I ended up playing right field, and then I ended up playing second base, and then last year I played third base, first base, right field, catcher, and second base. So the only position I haven't played is center field because our center fielder is really good, and she doesn't like to get hurt or move around. So it's a little selfish if I have to say so.
Don't let her listen to this interview.
Oh, she's great. She's in the room. Don't you worry.
We are talking to Oregon softball player Shaye Bowden. Oh, my God. Shaye, you got some personality. But I'll tell you this. When we were about to go on with the show, I did look at your Instagram, and you like to have a lot of fun. I can see that. You like to have fun with your girlfriends. Tell us a little bit about your life out of softball. What do you like to do? What are some of your hobbies and recreational things that you do off the field?
Yeah, so I'm a really outdoorsy person. So I love to hike, and especially in Oregon. I mean, I'll go hiking in the mountains with like maybe one other person or just by myself, and go to a waterfall and jump in the water. We'll just go on a hike. We have a hike right now down the street, and it's called Spencer's View, and it looks over all of Eugene, so we can see our stadium and everything, and it's beautiful. It's kind of my getaway for sure. I'm also really into photography, so I try to take my teammates and I try to make them model for me. And a lot of times they don't want to, and it's not fair. But anything to do with outdoors. I mean, we hang out all the time. We are social butterflies. We like to do everything together.
Well, Speedy's a social butterfly, or maybe a social beetle. You're like a beetle.
Social beetle.
Yeah, you're like a beetle. Yeah, I wouldn't say a butterfly. You're not much to look at, so I would say beetle.
Fair enough. What has your experience been with Oregon? You mentioned you grew up in Arizona. Probably, again, we're a fan of either Arizona or Arizona State, one of your rivals at that, playing now for Oregon. What have been the big differences? And again, what were some of the things that made you choose Oregon as a whole, both, again, with the athletic programs? They have a lot of good ones, too. Basketball team that made the Final Four, football team that was very good this year. You had Sabrina Ionescu. Yeah. What were some of those experiences like, and what were the big reasons you chose Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, the experiences of being an Oregon athlete is absolutely amazing. I would say that coming from Arizona to there has been a huge adjustment, mainly with the weather. I'm used to having it always be sunny and 115, but now I go and it's cloudy and rainy and it's 52 instead of 100, and it's just kind of I had to buy a bunch of new clothes, and I don't know. That's the biggest struggle for me, was moving. I'm a very independent person, so leaving my family was hard, but it wasn't making my decision for me. And they're super supportive with what decision I did choose to make. I would say the athletics department is absolutely probably one of the best I've ever even heard of and or been a part of, obviously. They care about us so much as people. And experiencing Stadium every single Saturday was one of the most amazing things all of my 3 years. Me and a few of my teammates actually get front row seats every single time and just scream the entire game. We get there 2 hours early and just sit in the front and we enjoy the game.
Do you quack?
The basketball.
Do you quack?
What?
Do you quack?
We do not quack.
Oh, man. Come in.
I'm not even sure how that would work. We should get a little thing that does it for us.
I have a ringtone.
I'm going to get a heads up.
I would love to see you quack. That would be funny. I have the whole fans just start quacking in the audience. Like Mighty Ducks, you know? There we go. And you could say that I'm the one that gave you that idea. So it'll be something spiritual for me and for you, and you can remember this interview.
Maybe they could do it like the Long Island Ducks and get those duck whistles, duckbill whistles.
Exactly what we need.
Oh, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just saying, basketball. I mean, obviously Sabrina Ionescu. It's weird because like she's such a star, you know, and to like actually know her personally. And I'm not like super close with her, but be able to see her like walking around campus and not be like, you're starstruck, but you're also like, hey, like I've had a conversation with you. Like I actually know who you are. This is crazy that I'm walking in the same street with you. So it's definitely interesting. Like being Justin Herbert, you're like, whoa, like you're big time, dude. But like I see you and sit next to you at breakfast. It's weird.
Let's hope he becomes a good quarterback in the NFL.
I really hope so.
So they don't kill him.
He's such a good person.
We don't want to see him get killed. I mean, we've heard enough on social media about him that everybody thinks he's going to be a bust. I don't think. I think he's the best quarterback in this year's draft. That's just me. But we are talking to Oregon's a softball player, Shaye Bowden. Shaye, have you ever hit a piñata before?
Have I ever what?
Hit a piñata.
Yes.
Well, good, because we're working on something for the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We're going to tie Speedy up and tie him to a string to a tree. And we're going to get baseball and softball players. We're going to blindfold them and see who gets the best swing on Speedy. And whoever does get the best swing on Speedy gets to come in to the studio and do a show with us and watch Speedy laser.
I'll be dead. You'll have to, it'll be you.
Are we replacing him or?
Well,
yes, essentially you are, because if you're going to swing, have a competition, I'd probably be dead.
So will you take this spot?
And when we're done, we'll take pictures of it and we'll hang it up in the auditorium for the Oregon Ducks. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, that sounds exciting.
You see that, Speedy? I've got her on my side.
Yes, they're not the victim. Of course they would do it. They were the victim. They wouldn't like it.
Like a bunch of stuff, we're good.
Well, there you go. But really, seriously, what is your I mean, me, and I was an athlete too, and I grew up a big-time athlete, and I was getting looked at from NHL teams when I was 16 years old, 15 years old. What is it like playing with players that could be the next United States softball superstar for USA softball? What is it like playing against some of the great softball players in the country?
Oh, it's absolutely insane. For example, like Fifth Bates, she plays for Washington. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who she is at this point. But playing against her, I actually roomed with her at USA Junior Tryout. And she was by far just one of the sweetest people. But seeing her on the field, you would never, she's just a monster. She's so good. And then hitting against Rachel Garcia, I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling that I'm going up against a future Olympian. And then also Deja Mulitola at U of A, a catcher. I haven't seen many people steal on her, and it's just cool that you get to play on the same field that people are going to represent your country with, and I think that's just awesome.
You obviously, being a softball player growing up, you obviously know that the Olympics took it away for a while. I think after 2008, they took it away for the last two Summer Olympics, and as baseball as well. What do you think were the biggest reasons for that? And what do you think, are you surprised that they took it away, being it was very popular and they were a very successful team?
Yeah, so from my understanding, they took it away for a few reasons. One of the main reasons is you have to have a boy and a girl sport in order to compete. And what I was told was that the MLB didn't want to lose their best of their best players during the midst of their season, which totally makes sense. But it was also income. We weren't getting as many views during the Olympics as maybe other sports, and so I think it kind of caused a problem. Softball isn't super, super popular in many other countries, as well as baseball. And I'm not surprised they took it away, but I'm really happy that they brought it back because I think that was the best decision overall.
As you guys know, we are talking to Oregon softball player Shaye Bowden. Shaye, you grew up looking up to certain people. I'm sure your parents are two people. They're hardworking, as you said. They're construction workers. They fix houses and sell houses. Is there a particular athlete growing up as a baseball player or a softball player that you looked up to that you wanted to be just like?
Hey, you're probably going to laugh, but Buster Posey.
Really?
Oh, my gosh. I am obsessed with him. That's why I'm number 28. I am absolutely obsessed with this man. I think that he plays the game for all the right reasons. And I think that what he advocates is for all the right reasons. And I really just love the way he played the game and the way that he changed the game as well. And he always played with, like, you could tell, I don't know, you can tell when players are playing for the money, and you can tell when people are playing for the love of the game. And I could always just tell that he was playing for the love of the game. And I really just wanted to strive to be just like that.
You playing at Oregon, you're in the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 throughout the Power 5 conferences I've always been known as the conference of parity. They have the Pac-12 after dark crazy games for football and basketball and baseball and softball, obviously, several sports, and it just seems like there's a lot of parity. What is it like being involved in that kind of conference where, again, anything could happen kind of thing? There's not really one amazing team for a lot of the sports, but there's a lot of really good teams, whereas, again, you see other conferences be top-heavy. What is that kind of experience like in those conference games?
It's intense for sure. My freshman year, we were battling with UCLA and Washington for a Pac-12 championship, and it was head-to-head. It was down to the last game. And so we never really were comfortable with where we stood, and I think that that's something that drives competition and then drives so much. It makes the game a lot more fun because you're starting to play for something, and you're playing against a bunch of people, and these people are absolutely amazing. And like last year, like I said, we weren't, the best in the pack, but we still would compete with these teams, and you were like, wait, I remember you guys not being so great last year, but now you guys are competing for the top 5 or the top 3, So I think it changes every year based off your recruiting class and the transfers, and I think that's super cool to just be able to see that and never know what's going to happen.
Before we let you go, Shaye, could you tell us what your plans are in the future? Do you plan to try out for the United States softball team? What are your plans as an athlete and plans after you graduate from Oregon?
Yeah, so with the whole COVID thing, I'm hoping that I get my 2 years. As of right now, I have both my years back. And so I plan on finishing in 2022, which is a little crazy to think. But after that, I do plan on it. Again, it all depends on what happens in my life. But if it were to be right now, I'd plan on hanging up my cleats, actually. And I am working to be in physician's assistant school. So I want to be a PA. And that's 2 years of school outside of what I am right now. And they actually don't allow you to coach or do anything on the side. Mm-hmm. So I'd be just a student for another 2 years. But if I do end up, obviously, if I get the honor to try out for the USA team, I would never pass that opportunity up. So.
Well, I'll tell you this. We're rooting for you. I'm backing you up on this. And you're on Team Errol, not Team Speedy. So team motivation, you could be our fan now. I hope you follow us. We really appreciate you joining us, and we would love to get you on when the softball season does begin again. I want you to stay in touch with us. Tell everybody to follow us, laugh at Speedy, and trust me, we are going to have a piñata, and we're going to hang Speedy up on a tree. So if you're not going to hit him, and half the baseball players we interview are not going to hit him, I'm going to do it for all of you. So don't worry.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me today. I actually had a blast. You guys are hilarious.
Thank you so much. Before we let you go, tell the fans how they can find you on social media.
How we can what?
How they can find you on social media.
So you guys are going to go to Worldwide Sports Radio Network on Twitter, and we're going to press the follow button, and then you can go to my Instagram, click on my story, and then click the little thing that I posted and follow them on Instagram.
Oh, you are the best. Stay in touch.
Look at that. A little promotion.
Stay in touch and tell everybody to follow us. And by the way, tell the people over there, do you have iOS or do you have Droid?
I have an Apple.
You have an Apple, iOS. When you get off the phone with us, go to your iOS store, search WWSRN. Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's WWSRN. Download our app. Tell all your friends and all your fans to follow us. We would love for you guys to follow us. And by the way, we would love to come down there maybe soon because we are going to be traveling soon and interview some of the players on your team and some of your coaches. We would love to do that.
Yes, absolutely. We would love that. And I'll make sure to let everybody know.
All right. So definitely download that app. It just came up about 2 months ago. It's one of the best, hottest apps right now for sports radio. So there you go. That's the selling point. That's the selling point.
We got someone to promote it. You didn't even ask.
Yes, you got to promote us.
You got to start posting dancing videos, and you'll be good.
Oh, you want to see some dancing videos? I will send you I will tell. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to do you a favor. I will this week. I'm going to do a dancing video. And we're going to do a TikTok video, me and Speedy, and we're going to post it all over social media. I guarantee you we'll have people laughing. Download our app and tell everybody to download our app. I promise you, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to hold I'm going to hold a piece of paper saying, Shaye, this is for you.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm holding you accountable right now.
I'm telling you, I'm going to do it. I'm a man of my word. You'll see me do it.
Perfect. I'm a woman of mine.
Oh, there you go. Shaye, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, guys.
Absolutely. Shaye Bowden, great interview. Funny.
Yes.
She wants to beat you up.
Yes.
She does.
Seems like all the guests want to beat me up.
Well, we have Anthony on the show tomorrow, so that I can beat him up next.
Thank God. I get a psychological relief.
Well, somebody's got to beat you up, Speedy. If it's not me, it's got to be somebody else. Why not a woman that can hit for 353 in a softball game? So there you go.
Now I have to plot.
Before we go, there's what was the story we missed?
The MLB draft, I think.
Yes. I don't know if anybody watched the MLB draft yesterday, and it was very interesting, and I was very surprised who the Yankees drafted. And this draft was full of great pitchers, and everybody was saying that this draft was cluttered with great pitching. And there was only 5 rounds in this year's draft because of the whole COVID-19. The Yankees added a catcher, which to me, either they're thinking, and I know the Yankees like to double up on catchers. Over the years, they've grown. A lot of great catchers have grown through their farm systems. Jorge Posada being one of them, Gary Sanchez being another one, and we can go back and forth on some of the catchers that we've seen. But the Yankees decided at I think it was the 18th or 19th pick.
It was 28. Austin Wells.
I'm sorry.
Catcher.
Yes, 28. They drafted a catcher. And I was very surprised with that. Now, Austin was supposed to be a top 15 pick when I was reading about him. He was supposed to be possibly, some people said, a top 10 pick, but he fell all the way to 28. Now, I'm questioning the pick. I like what the Mets did, by the way.
Yeah, they took a player that was, for some people, I think, thought of as a top 10 pick.
Mm-hmm. I really like the kid that they pick, an outfielder, a guy that can multifaceted and power, can hit for average. And he's a great defensive player.
A lot of people are saying he could be the best defensive player in the draft.
So I was very surprised with the Yankees and the Mets. And the Mets, I think the Mets yesterday won the first round of the draft. And the Yankees, even though I don't know much about Austin Wells, and Austin Wells could turn out to be the best player in this year's draft. Absolutely could. And what you hear about him, the guy has tremendous power and can hit all over the field and hit for average for a catcher. I think eventually he will be a first baseman. I don't think he's a catcher in this league.
Well, you wonder when they'll end up coming up because catchers can take a while to develop too. It's one of those positions like you and Shaye were saying, it's a big premium, and a lot of the times they're hard to find. So that might take a while, especially with Sanchez already there. What's interesting is actually the Yankees actually drafted him, I think, 2017 as well, and then he went to school. So we'll have to see how that ends up helping him, and maybe the experience with the little bit he was with the organization. Obviously wasn't in their farm system, but the little bit he was with the organization, how he could get used to it.
What did you think about the draft? Who do you think won the draft? I was, a lot of people were very surprised that Spencer went number 1 because a lot of people thought Spencer was a top 4, top 5 pick. He wasn't going to. There were a couple of pitchers that went 3 and 4. Max Meyer, who was the best pitcher in the draft.
That's the other guy who was thought of as number 1 outside of Torkelson. And then Emerson Hancock to the Mariners. One of our guests was mentioning him a couple of weeks ago as one of the guys they faced. I think it was the URI coach. I think he was mentioning him as one of the big guys to watch. So the fact that he fell to 6 was very interesting too. I also like the kid that the Phillies drafted too, Mick Abel. He's a nice young pitcher that I think he is definitely somebody to look at. In the Nationals too, they got a nice pitcher at 22 as well. So definitely some names to watch going forward. But again, it's baseball, so these guys probably won't be up for probably 3 or 4 years. Maybe besides Torkelson and Meyer, I think those are really the two that maybe could have instant impact. But beyond that, I think the rest will probably take 3 or 4 years, maybe even more.
As you guys know, this is Below the Mic. We are live every single Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time. I'd like to thank Ithaca Football Hall of Fame and National Football Foundation and New York Chairman Mark Hudak. And obviously, we just interviewed
Shaye Bowden.
I'm sorry, Oregon player. Why do you always cut me off? Why do you do that? I'm all over the place all day. I'm doing everything. You always cut me off. I know who she is, and all you had to do is give me a second to get my tongue out, and I probably would have figured it out.
Get your tongue out.
Yeah, my tongue out. Well, first of all, if you didn't have a tongue, could you talk?
No.
Okay, so I have to use my tongue, right?
I know.
So I stumbled on her name, and again, you like to cut me off, but that's you, Speedy. Anyway, so I'd like to thank Shaye Bowden for joining us. She was great, gave us some good intake, and not only with softball, but her thoughts of Buster Posey being the guy that she looked up to, and a person that I'm sure she wants to meet. But
being from Arizona, so that's
like to thank Kevin for joining us and reaching out to us, and all the callers that tried to get in. I'm sorry if you tried to get in. It was a long day. It was a big show. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, Caged in MMA, me and Anthony Andarosi. We're going to have a UFC fighter on, and we're going to have Thomas Sconzo giving us...
The one you sang to?
Yes, giving us the new rules of the New York State Mixed Martial Arts Committee.
Are you going to sing again?
No, it's not his birthday anymore. Why would I sing?
I don't know.
How about I smack you in the back of the head? How's that sound?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. Anyways, that's it for our show. We'll be back next week on Thursday. Until then, actually Monday, down to the wire. Until then, this is Errol Mark Speedy Petey saying good night, and we'll talk to you then. Good night.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.